Mingling Blood, Blaque versus Wyte by Michael C. McCormick. A man from Blaque became lost one day, and he spotted a Wyte going the other way. Both had lost their regiments when engaged in a fight and were trying to get back with all their might. On the opposite side of a steep river bank, Blaque ducked behind a shrub, and to one knee he shrank. Wyte hadn't seen him, so Blaque pulled out of his quiver his last arrow and fired it across the river. Wyte was just stepping out onto the bridge that crossed the dried river when it pierced between his ribs. As the head of the arrow ripped open his back, from behind the bush his enemy began his attack. Blaque tore through the branches and charged down the hill. With eyes full of blood, he could smell the kill. But Wyte was a warrior, and no arrow in the chest could keep him from fighting his very best. He reached back for the arrow and broke off the tip, then pulled out the shaft quickly and with a firm grip. He threw the bloodied arrow away with some pride, and then reached for the great sword which hung at his side. It came out of its sheath with a sound like lightning and held it in front of him, a sight just as frightening. His eyes swiftly fastened on his charging foe as his first step and weight swayed that bridge to and fro. With quickening steps he marched forward, not yielding, with the intent of murder with the sword he was wielding. They charged at each other like two rams in the wild, and when they clashed, the sound could be heard for a mile. As the sound echoed over and across the chasm, they dropped back for a moment, and then, like a spasm, they rushed upon each other with sword, shield, and axe, violent enough to make any man's heart melt like wax. Each man knew this battle would be fought to the end. One man surely would lose, and only one man could win. They fought with flaming hatred, though they did not know why, not considering that they might be the one to die. As if chopping wood, Blaque swung his axe hard toward Wyte's torso. Shielding, Wyte thrust his sword with as much strength and more so. Cutting the side of Blaque's head, the sword acted as a shear, and through a crack in the bridge fell the warrior's ear. But Blaque took his vengeance as he swung again with a cry. He missed the head and body, but ripped open Wyte's thigh. They hacked at each other like lumberjacks on tree trunks, till their flesh resembled that of raw stew meat in chunks. As Blaque swung his axe, slipped through the blood on his hand. It flew through the air and lodged in the dry river sand. Lacking strength, Wyte thrust it at the body of his foe, but blocking the sword, it also fell to the sand below. No weapons, they went at it, with just bare knuckles and training. They wrestled and punched, though strength was waning. They beat head and body with unrelenting force, and when the great battle had taken its course, they both stood and reeled, delirious from the mauling. Then they collapsed onto the bridge like two redwoods falling. They lay breathing heavily, and with each exhale were dying. They tried to get up, but their bodies had stopped trying. Both men's blood was red and rich and good, but each flowed like a stream off that bridge of wood. It fell like rain traveling through the air. Regardless of where it landed, it did not care. It was not quickly absorbed in the dry river bed, so there the blood mingled and sat like lead. Each drop that fell on top of another made it impossible to tell one man's blood from the other. Through the cracks in the bridge, they both watched the ground as they lay there dying, not making a sound. What they saw was absolutely new to their eyes, for as young men they had believed all the lies. That the enemy is not human and his blood not the same, and to kill him, his sport and all just a game. Sweat burned in Blaque's eyes, adding more pain to his dying, but it didn't really matter, for he had already been crying. Through the blood and the tears, Wyte groaned, "We are brothers. We are dying for the hatred and lives of others." They both breathed their last, and as they died, they understood that they were the same inside. Since their knowledge remained theirs, as their body grew cold, one might wonder how in the world their story will be told. For at home their families receive the news, unable to see, and they'll curse that murdering animal called the enemy.